Are you worried that the growth your MSP has experienced in the last 2 years is coming to an end due to the economic uncertainty our country is facing? Are you taking the necessary steps to prepare for the next year's recession? If you are, you've come to the right place. Our panel of experts will be discussing the landscape of our industry and how to prepare for it. We interview hundreds of MSPs, and their number one problem to get more customers is new leads, but not just any leads, but highly qualified leads. The second biggest problem is, what do I do with them? Meaning how to market, follow up with them, and convert to happy new customers. Binox MSP deep integration with tools you already use brings the entire sell process together in one single place. See it for yourself. Enjoy the show.
Wow. Unbelievable. So welcome everybody. My name is Walter Contreras and I am the CEO of Binox MSP. With me, I have some incredible people today, some of the industry influencers. I want to start with introducing Matt from Channel Program. Matt, how are you, my friend?
Doing excellent. I appreciate you having me on the panel today.
Happy to have you, man. And of course, we have Sean Larda from ConnectWise. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm glad that you brought a few follically challenged people on the call with me, like Rick. And I feel like I'm amongst my people.
By the way, your beer, man, looks amazing, bro.
You know what? Thank you. But in 6 days and approximately 18 hours, I'm having it completely shaved off. So.
Oh wow! I can't wait to see that. That's gonna be. We haven't seen your face in years, right?
15 probably, man. Honestly,
wow.
I can wait. I can wait to see it. It's not a good face. Let's just be fair. Not a good face.
Good face for radio.
Yeah.
Good face for radio. Great, glad to have you, man. Thanks for making the time. Ben Wolf, how are you, my friend?
Great to be here, Walter. Thanks for the invitation. Appreciate it.
You know, I can't wait to talk to you about EOS and what MSP do with that. That's an amazing thing. And of course, my really good friend and sales genius, Rick Marr. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Walter. Thanks for having me, and appreciate being on the panel with some awesome, cool people. So for a fuddy-duddy like myself, I'm happy to be around the good guys.
Yeah, listen, man. Sean, you'll appreciate this because you're in sales. Like, I talk to Rick every so often. We actually have to check in with each other because we're always thinking about sales and we're always thinking about how to reinvent them because, as you know, things change all the time. So I called Rick, when was it, Rick? Wednesday? We had a conversation.
Yeah.
It's just my head exploded from this guy's ideas. Like every week he's changing something and for the good, by the way, because he sees the trends. Rick, I'm gonna start with you because I think that the greatest benefit we can give MSPs in this show will be to talk about the sales process and how that's being affected now, how they've been enjoying the last 2 years of growth, and myself included in my own MSP. But what's gonna happen next year when the economy starts to decline and people are gonna have to be more creative about the sales process?
Yeah, well, I think, and thank you again for having me. I think that there's a lot of things that are going on, and I think the biggest trend, the overall arching trend, and from someone who owns a human resources company, it's going to sound counterintuitive, but the automation of sales and the automation of processes has been, I think businesses that are waiting for it going back to the old days are going to be waiting a long time and will probably be closed versus those that are moving forward with all.
Yeah, and I think Rick was having some issues.
So the thing, yeah, I can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that the other side of it, the thing that's most important as a trend in human capital and how it relates to sales, is digital nomadism, right? And I think that's what COVID brought us in a great way. That we can work in Texas, we can work in New York, we can work in Mexico, we can work in Costa Rica. It doesn't matter. So having that automated technological process like a Binox is uber important to efficiency, especially as the cost of labor rises, right? and let's call it that the overall trends in business might get a little bit tougher than they are today, automation is the key trend in every sale.
Rick, we talked briefly about like automating too much, right? Like we talked a little bit about, I speak to hundreds of people who tell me like I'm automating this and that, and then in the end they're not getting those results. Do you ever talk to people that have the same feeling, like maybe automating too much is not a thing?
Well, I think it's a function of authenticity, right? So the automation has to have a level of authenticity that people can respond to. So let me give you a very simple example. We're very behavioral driven focused in every aspect of our business. So the language and the words that we use in that automation have to mirror the behavioral styles and how those people receive information, right? So very simple example, if you're selling to accountants or insurance agencies, right? Accountants and insurance agencies are very typically different types of businesses, different behavioral styles. An accountant's very by the book, step by step, whereas an insurance agent is, hey, I'm out there selling, I'm creating, I'm making it up as I go along. So if you're targeting a specific industry or a specific area, the sales process, the automated sales process has to jive, has to be in alignment with that specific target audience.
So Ben, you spend a ton of time literally profiling and helping people identify their issues, utilizing Traction, the EOS process. How do you see MSPs taking advantage or not taking advantage of that in the sales?
You're talking about taking advantage of automation?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I don't have as much to say about that. I guess what I think about when you asked about patterns before, and what's happening with MSPs and technology companies in general, as well as other kinds of organizations, I guess I see, especially in the last couple of years and since COVID, although it was starting even before that, is just a lack of good people, or just people issues, as being the biggest bottleneck and the biggest problem that people are having, is getting the right people, getting enough people, getting good people. So I guess I would break it down. I would say people being number one issues, even before process and automation, for me personally.
Is that training too, Ben? Would you say training it's a big part of it?
Yeah, so that actually gets into the binary of the different kind, not no pun intended with Binox, but the binary of the binary of the different kinds of people issues, right? Which is, one is I guess the more fundamental one, which is just having enough of the right people. Because if you don't have the right people, then you could have the greatest processes and automations in the world and systems. But if you don't have the right people to be executing them and to use their brains and to take care of your customers, or take care of finance or sales or marketing or whatever it is, operations, whatever it happens to be, then the greatest processes in the world are not going to be effective. The more, I guess, in my experience, the more fundamental or foundational upon which process and systems is based is right people, and having the right people. So the other element when you talk about training is, okay, now that you've got people, what kind of experience are those people having? Are they going to a job and a work, whether hybrid or remote or in person, but are they going to a job where they enjoy being, where they can feel successful? They have the tools to do their job, the tools to feel successful. Are they training, or are you just kind of telling everybody, hey, shadow this person for 2 weeks and then figure it out? Everybody's doing things their own way, and they feel like they're thrown in to the wolves. And I'm Ben Wolf, so no pun intended, but they feel like they're
No pun intended either.
they're like thrown into it, and then they're having a bad experience. The onboarding process just starts off, especially in small and mid-sized businesses like MSPs and like these people, is they're just starting off their employees and just in a roller coaster, again, feeling like they're being eaten by wolves, and coming out with a bad first impression, and like they're being thrown into it, and they don't have the clear tools, clear processes, clear training, an organized and intentional and thought out onboarding process. And so, culture, just culture, training, process, onboarding, I think, are the things to think about in terms of giving your employees and training, again, what you mentioned, Walter, but giving your employees a good experience and having the tools to feel successful, because most people want to feel successful. They want to be successful at their jobs. And they don't necessarily automatically can just figure out how to do that on their own without some guidance from the company and people that have been there.
You touch on something so deep and important for me because, you know, I spend about 90% of my time training my salespeople, from listening to their calls and quickly jumping on the chat to I just got this call and this guy told me that blah blah blah, and spending 30 minutes dissecting every single detail of the call, then going back and testing it and doing it over and over. You know, you touch on something that is fundamental to creating documentation, to listening to the calls, to spend so much time with the team. And then in the end, the result, people tell us sometimes that we're a pain in the butt sometimes because we're calling so much. But in the end, I get people that tell me, you know what, thank you for being so relentless, because now that I looked at the product, I understand it. And now, you know, we can grow. Matt, I got to tell you, I've seen hundreds of companies doing sales, and I said this before on a behind the scenes. You are one of the best salespeople, one, but two, you guys have really put some incredible processes at Channel Pro. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what's the? I mean, there's got to be some crazy DNA between you and your partner. Like, it's crazy what you guys do.
Yeah, no. First of all, I appreciate that. Very, very high compliments. You know, I don't know that I think of myself that way. And you know, traditionally, I've always bucked the system of processes. If I'll be honest, you know, I've always paved my own way in sales. I never liked being told a certain way to do things, and you know, I always came from a much more consultative approach. And I know that that's not always, you know, the way certain sales processes have gone. But you know, as I've grown, I guess professionally, I do certainly understand and see the value of setting up processes, especially for a team as you're building them out. But yeah, I mean, you know, I think as we're now in this second iteration with Channel Program, and you know, this time being a founder and a business partner, having to understand and be a lot more mature about the processes is going to be is absolutely critical, because we're building out a sales team where we're bringing in SDR, you know, account managers at all different levels, and so you know, we're finding that, you know, it's absolutely critical to have those in place so that we don't have to keep, you know, you have a repetitive process, and then you're not just wasting time as you onboard new salespeople and things like that. But yeah, I always get a kick out of like listening to other people's stories, because I have a feeling Sean bucks the system a little bit as well, because that's just I've always paved my own way personally when it comes to sales. But man, if I could have tools where people, you know, like what you're talking about, what you're launching, I mean, that would make my job so much easier. And that's I think that's one of the things about automation is, you know, it doesn't always have to be a grind. I think I've always been traditional of like, I have to be the one grinding and doing all of these things, but I probably don't have to. And so, you know,
you listen, man, you sold me twice. I happen to think that I'm a tough sale, and you know, experiencing that with you was a tremendous learning for me, because I learned how you build the relationship and all. You know, I had an opportunity, Sean, to spend great amount of time with you and the pitcher team.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, man, I have so much respect for you in the way that you sell, because at the end, it is a sale. We're selling ourselves all the time, 99.9% of the times. And I have such an admiration for what you and the pitcher team does. Can you talk about how you plan that? Like, how do you guys get that together?
Thank you for that.
Wrong bald guy.
The other bald guy.
Yeah.
They got you confused, Sean.
I know we all look alike. We all look alike. I know. I mean, Rick, you're up next. You'll probably go before me. Yeah, Matt, you want to just let him know how pitch it went for us? That was great. Matt was part of this. So yeah, so I got a few things here. Pitch It. I took over the helm for Pitch It in the last week of January. One thing that we knew we wanted to do was, and this will totally support this whole conversation we're having now, was, you know, yeah, it's great if you go and you win Pitch It, right? It's great if you do. You win a prize. There's a $70,000 first place prize and a $30,000 second place prize, which is awesome. But we wanted to make sure there was lasting effects for success. That was what it had to come down to. So when we started to figure out where we were going to go with this, and believe me, it was a lot of back and forth on this. We wanted to make sure we did several things. We wanted to make sure we had an incubation program that made sense. We knew that, you know, being startups, you probably thought of a good bit of what you needed, but we were hoping to give you guys education from various coaches that were from various practitioner levels that can give you something that you might like aha moments, right? So you can work on those things. The goal, again, that was one part of it. So you can start to maybe fill in some gaps on whatever it may be, right? The other part was we wanted to work on, we want you to win. We want you all to have a chance to win at Pitch It, but we'd rather you win at growth of your business and success long-term. So that's why we started working on brand awareness campaigns, like doing the webinars. That also made you work on your speak to learn how to present what you're doing. We can use MSPs because they're the greatest. None of them can tell you what they do. What do? We do networking and and all these special words they use. But to the average person, it's like, what did you just say to me? Can you say it in English? You
It's
know,
all tech. It's all
yes,
techy.
exactly, which never works. It's just like you don't see your doctor and they tell you everything in Latin because they learned the skeletal system in Latin. They tell you broke your leg. Okay, they're not going into the rest, you know. But so Pitch It was built like that, and again, we wanted to make sure there was an incubation program involved to get more engaged. It's good for the startups, but most importantly, it's good for the partners that we have. And I do want to come back around to your original questions with everybody else to unpack something here. First, to what Matt's point was, I think that Matt and I are pretty similar in the way we approach things. We're not in sales. We provide solutions, whatever that is. It's not necessarily us. It could be you. It could be, it could be Ben says, I need this thing and I can't provide it, but Walter can. So here's Walter, right? Because it's about relationships. But one key point is we talked about automation on this. You can't have a disruptive level without having a nucleus fundamental foundation. So there is you mentioned, I think Rick, you said about being nomadic. There is a process. I always the way I broke it down with every company I've ever worked with on is I broke it down between, I look at prospecting as being very linear. I think
Explain that. What do you mean by linear?
Okay, where everybody has done sales. No matter you have to determine your process based off of what you guys do first, okay? But once you determine a process on prospecting, every day you're coming in and you're getting your list, you're making whatever phone calls and emails you're supposed to make to prospect because nothing's happened yet. You're going to do whatever activities that your job requires.
That's an activity-based idea.
Exactly, which makes it linear because most sales reps by nature have a level of OCD when it comes to that.
Sure.
They come in and they know they're going to look at their leads, however they get their leads or whatever, right? Start from day one. They know they got a script. They know they have some emails or whatever, and they're going to make their phone calls. They're going to leave their messages. They're going to send their email. 3 or 4 days from then, they're going to do the follow-up call and do the email and then whatever, so on and so forth, right?
But that is the biggest problem, right, Sean? Isn't that the biggest problem? Having to be so linear that if you are an MSP, you kind of lose track of that because you're putting out fires, you're getting phone calls from customers.
Well, correct. But again, that's where MSPs have to make a conscious decision. What are they and who are they? And that goes to Ben's conversation where he talked about people. Okay. Mm-hmm. Before you start talking about hiring people, you have to identify what the people are going to do and actually be disciplined as to what the rules are. If you're the CEO, Walter, and you hire me as a sales manager, then you're not the salesperson. You need to get out of it. You need to be there to support me. And I need to build a process and show you results, but you got to support these until it happens. That's always the first challenge from every business owner.
That's literally the first thought that came to my mind when I was building this platform was, how do I keep people in the focus, right? Mm-hmm. So talk about like this new generation of salespeople, Sean, because like you and I, Rick, Matt, Ben, everybody here, we belong to a generation where we pounded the phone, we did certain things, we knew how to take the call, we knew what to do with the phone call, we knew what rebuttals, fear, fell found, all these other things. But this next generation of salespeople, if you don't give them the right if you don't give them a CRM, right?
Sure.
They're lost.
Of course.
Even more.
Well, I think, and I would say that Matt and I are very similar in our approach to how we approach the market at large. First off, yes. If I remember my first 100% commission sales job, I had my day timer and I had a calendar on my desk, and that's where I filled in all my stuff. Man, I don't even know if I can print my name anymore because I haven't really done any of that. I can't write. I don't write. I type everything now. But at that point, that's how I structured it. That was my CRM, was my day timer, right?
I remember you
But
told me that story on
it
the
was,
kitchen.
bro, it was rough. It was, and then my boss would come in and look at, and I'd have to leave my day timer on my desk so they can come look at what my appointments were and who it was and when it was happening. And I was scheduling my follow-up activity, and they would question me on that. And that's how they trained me. That's why prospecting has to be linear in regards to process, because how can I figure out where your gaps are? Is it a process issue? Is it a content issue? Is it a skill set issue? Or is it an activity issue? Those are the 4 things I'm looking at, right, as a sales manager.
Well,
But
listen, I'm leaving because I just got to show the platform, and no, I'm kidding. Rick had a comment about what you just said, by the way.
yes, I didn't look at it. Hold on. What did he say?
Oh, he's backstage. I'm sorry, Rick. We'll let you in a second. But no, you know what? I am telling you, and Ben, I don't know if you can add more to that, but for me, I find good people, and then I realize that when they don't work out, the first thought in my mind is it's not their fault, right? Because one, did I do my job in terms of providing the tools, whether it's EOS or whatever tooling, whatever operating system I'm using? By the way, I am an EOS based company. And then on the same time, did I train them enough? Did I coach them enough? Did I work with them enough? Does that happen a lot, Ben, where you see companies not doing that enough?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously what you and what Sean said is right. You have to diagnose what the problem is. Did I give them the tools they need, like a CRM, or did I give them the process they need? Is the script the issue? Is the messaging the issue? Or is it them that's the issue? And once you identify the problem, then you have to take decisive action. Either whether it's correcting the script, correcting the process, correcting the system, or correcting the person. And if they're not coachable, then let's not drag this out for months and months and months, but let's make a change
Right.
and put the right person in there.
That's actually another big learning I had this week, by the way. Like, be more decisive about the product. Rick, you had something to want to comment on Sean's?
Yeah,
I think you're back to lost, by the way. We lost you for a second. Sorry, man. We'll come back. Matt, you want to comment on what Sean said about that?
Now I'm not even. Sean said a lot of things. So what?
Mainly, let's talk about the. You know what I'm worried? Not worry. I don't want to use the word worry, but you know what I'm focused on right now is my next generation of salespeople, right? Because so a little bit about us. Like I'm on the other. Like I'm this MSP that is. By the way, I did say grateful when
Mic check.
Yeah, you're good, Rick.
Okay.
So I did say grateful when you guys asked me how I was. And the reason why I'm super grateful about it is, one, the opportunity, right? I don't know if you guys know this, but I happen to be an immigrant that came to this country when I was a young kid, and I am now grateful to be an American citizen. And the other thing is the tremendous opportunities that this country brings, right? And so I am more concerned about how am I going to empower the next generation of salespeople, because I am in meetings right now where I'm being demo the next generation of AI, where a salesperson is on the phone with Sean trying to sell him something, right? And the AI is telling the salesperson what to say, taking notes. If you say, I'm going to send you the proposal, the AI is sending the proposal. And so that next generation of salespeople, we really have to work on keeping them focused, right? Because they're going to be all over the place. And of course, we're dealing with younger people. So can you comment a little bit on that, Matt? Like, are you experiencing that with your team right now?
Not so much from that perspective. I guess from the AI side of things, I guess we're still using more traditional methods, I suppose. I think there's definitely different mentalities in terms of like who's able to make cold calls, and I think it's important to figure out obviously what's going to be the driver the prospecting, but also recognizing that everybody has different levels of comfort in what and how they approach sales, and not one way to me is the only way.
Right.
I always felt I always had a chip on my shoulder as a salesperson because I'll be honest, like there was just first of all, I actually never loved cold calling. I mean, I'm sure there's people who are fantastic at it. I actually never thought I was a great cold caller. I was better doing research and finding a consultative approach and figuring out a different angle on how to approach the prospect in a less cold manner.
Mhm.
I actually got fired from a job early in my life. Early in my life, I couldn't do it. It was door to door sales. It was
Oh
like
man.
printer copying machines, which just there's no difference, at least in my head. There's no difference between them, and it was just painful. But
Oh
I,
man.
I guess my
That's
point though is like you gotta there's the makeup of your sales team is going to be drastically different. We have a guy on our SDR team who's just he was not afraid to do door to door sales, and so when I hired him, I was like, he's not gonna have any problem cold calling if you're willing to go door to door in these days and times. You're not gonna have a problem making phone calls. We have other people who prefer in person,
true.
prospect. So we're just trying to find different ways to utilize our staff. That I don't know if that answers the question, but
That is a great transition into Rick, though, because Rick, I want to hear your take on this whole human capital.
Yeah. So, like everyone on this call, I grew up as that. I was always the better salesperson, but when I was bad because I didn't believe in that process or whatever it was, and I always let my boss know what I thought, good, better, and different. But anyway, so I think what I'm hearing is, and as the owner of a human capital management company, we hire people. We do, we hire we do all this stuff, right? But as I'm listening and hearing, and this is what I think Walter's done so amazingly well, and I think where the Binox and CRM really fits in is, Ben talked about people before and the grinding mat and all that other stuff. And I think that where I'm seeing automation and technology is, if there's 5 steps to a sales process: find a lead, qualify a lead, engage the lead, propose a lead, and close the lead, right? The great salespeople on the call here, we could do all 5. We're 5 tool players. We're Derek Jeter. We're very expensive, right?
Right.
But what automation can do, right, is break those things down into components where instead of the $250,000 salesperson, you break it into each individual component. Now they become $15 an hour people that are following that process, right? So my job is to find the lead, right? My job is to qualify the lead. What are the questions I need to ask? Is this the lead we want? Then you have the customer service person who's engaging, the bubbly kind of person, making them feel good. Propose and close actually should be just become part of the process. But what we identified in our company internally, in the companies that we work with, the great and Ben, we are also EOS, so you might hear some of the stuff in there. There's 4 key jobs in any company to build any process, right? And Walter's company has done this amazingly. The first is, there needs to be someone who creates the idea, right? Call that the CEO, the visionary, whatever term you want to call for that. The second has to be a person who makes it real, right? An idea without execution is just a fantasy, right? So
Nothing.
call that your COO, your integrator type of person, right? The third is, who's going to make that idea that's now, okay, how are we building a process using CRM technology, AI, whatever it might be? Who's going to turn that into recurring and repeatable processes so that other people can do it, right? So we can push that down, right? And then the fourth is, who's going to make it profitable? That's the frontline person, right? So the way we look at it is, whether it's sales, your customer service, your accounting department, whatever it might be, if those 4 components are in place, and then let's take sales, and you could break down those 5 steps: find, qualify, engage, propose, close. Now it becomes much easier to find a specific person for a specific job. As Matt was referencing, I like knocking on doors, but I don't like cold calling people, right? You can then hire for that person. So back to Ben's point, are there good people out there? There are, but don't try to create super person. Try to create chunks, right? And when those chunks, those people become very replaceable, very trainable, almost like Henry Ford's assembly line. I punch nails. I'm good at that.
But
Johnny's good at
you're
turning
touching
screws.
something incredible, Rick. Let me share something real quick because I want to see if I can share this real quick. Hang on a second. So what I notice a lot, and I'm gonna later ask you guys to comment on it, but what I notice with us MSPs, and I'm one of them, so I can give you. You can see my screen, right? You see the super MSP guy?
I
No,
see
we
you.
just see you.
Oh,
I mean, I'm okay. Why don't you pantomime it? Like we can let's play charades.
no, hang on a second. I'm sure I could do this.
So, and I'll even while we're doing that, Rick, I'll go to your point. I agree with the creating the repeatable, scalable process, and that combines both people, technology, process. Right? We know that. Where I think, and if it depends on what kind of company we're talking to, right? If we're talking to a 4-man MSP shop, you're not going to be able to do that. Well,
No.
you can to a degree, to a certain extent, on certain pieces. You won't hire all those people. You'll probably hire. Well, if you talk to an MSP, they'll say we're hiring a salesperson. When you ask them what they're going to do, their response is they're going to sell stuff. Okay, and then I say, well, how? So they're going to close the deals. As soon as I say, so they're closing the deals, the small groups. Oh no, I'm closing the deals. Oh, okay. So you're hiring an appointment setter or a qualifier. Oh, yeah, I am. Cool. So you have a lot of leads for them, huh? No, about 200. And it's like, okay, well, what do they do next month when those 200 leads are ran through? Oh, they go find more leads. Oh, so you're hiring a business development, marketing, and appointment setter rep kind of person, right? Well,
It doesn't
no,
make sense.
it doesn't, right? And that's the challenge you see. So you got to figure out a way to make every process you can repeatable and scalable within each element of what you're talking about to a degree, and simplify as much as possible. So I totally agree with the whole automation piece. Just a matter of where's that, what
To a certain degree. Like
where's it fit in?
I live and breathe automation, and I can honestly tell you that the less automation I do when I'm in front of somebody, the better that deal goes because I'm laser focused on that person. And by the way, people don't want to get 100 emails from you. I hear all these automation CRMs like, oh, we're gonna send this and then it's gonna do this. I was that guy, by the way, Sean. Honestly, like I have a business coach. Rick knows him, Pete. And kudos to Pete, by the way, because he will come into my office every meeting. I spend 3 hours to today, still with him every Monday, and he will come into my office and start placing these props in front of me, right? And he will tell me, this is you, and I will be so angry, man. I wanted to kill him. But what he was showing me is that I used to put all of these excuses in front of me. Oh, when the website's done, then I'm gonna have the landing page, then I'm gonna have the email automation, right? And I think that's what Ben was talking about, which was getting that person that gets right in front of that line to whether it's calling them or following up with them, be more aggressive on the sale. I think conditionally our industry of MSPs have been kind of not focused on sales, right? So I'm hoping to bring some of that, Sean, to the industry. That is really my only goal here, is to put sales at the forefront because sales cures everything. Ben, you want to comment on that?
Sales cures everything. I would want to bring. I think everything needs to be strong, obviously, honestly. But the I guess the thing I would bring up to balance into this, and it ties into sales also, is recognizing. I know, Walter, I don't know if you wanted to get into the challenges the economy is starting to have,
Absolutely.
and possible recession that we're either in or will be in, and inflation, etc. It's putting a lot of pressure, higher costs, and a lot of pressure on people. And maybe they're not going to be making as many of these big decisions about hiring MSPs or all kinds of other things, or maybe looking at dropping or going to something more cheap or whatever. So, I guess just one of the things that comes up about differentiating, and obviously ties into sales, is that if you mentioned also before that MSPs are often like, yeah, I sell networking and I do tech support, and they just explain this like list of tasks that they do for people. and there's a lot of MSPs out there, and so you could be seen, and probably may be seen by many of your customers or potential customers, as commoditized, as productized, and
Sure.
there's nothing special about anyone. Like, like that, you feel like that copier. It's selling for you. Maybe you feel like that copier salesman, where it's all the same. It's all the same. How could I, in good, with a straight
They
face,
can't
say, like,
differentiate. They
yeah,
they
we
don't
sell
have.
a better
Yeah.
printer than the other guy sells, and I'm not saying anybody's actually not, unique and better, but the question, you've got to get people's attention. There's got to be some kind of wow factor. I mean, one thing I say is, I joined Strategic Coach, as a coaching program I joined. And like, when they reached out to me, they're like, look through our website, and any book in the whole Strategic Coach library, we'll just send it to you for free. We order one thing and they send two other things for free. And they must have sent me, like, I don't know, a year and a half worth of free
Worth of
books before I
stuff.
signed up for the program. I talked to other people that are sending like care packages, or they're like, we solve your technology puzzle, and they send like a 1,000-piece puzzle to their customer in the mail. I'm just saying, like, something that's like, oh, they're just like, blah, blah, kind of jolts you out of that thing of like, you're all the same.
So
and
you
like,
think
oh,
that
maybe I'll listen to your pitch for a second longer, because like you actually care, you did something
you're gonna take
different,
your
you're not just like
time?
everybody else.
So
Have a
do you think
wow. It's a
next year will be
wow.
different, Ben? Do you think
Create a
next year will be
wow.
tougher?
What?
Do you think next year will be tougher for MSPs?
I mean, yeah, I think everything's getting tougher for everybody all the time. Like, the next guy is going to be getting the AI, and they're going to be doing, like, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so, if we're not looking at improving our customer service, making also we forget about people once they become our clients. I don't know how much are we emphasizing how we're serving our current clients, and how's our customer service processes, and because those are, honestly, you get a lot more ROI on the time and money and resources you spend selling to your current clients additional services and getting them to 100% sold than you do closing new deals with brand new clients.
100%. 100%.
And so what resources are we spending on our current clients? I think it's getting harder for everybody. There's getting more competition, more commoditization. A lot more people are upping their game a lot more. So if you're not continually upping your game, whether it's in sales or customer support operations, then you're gonna be dying.
Sean, how can we prepare for next year? All of our peers. What are some of the things that we need to really put out there to help them out to prepare for sales for, I don't know, the economy downturn, whatever it is. I by the way, I happen to think the economy is an opportunity, and I'm gonna run with that. But what do you think?
No, I agree with what you said. I would, first off, I would double down on my investments to grow the business. You're gonna hit. We already hit a different landscape as an industry at large. I mean, I had this conversation earlier this morning with people over in the UK. I live in Pittsburgh, and I know that we have a lot of commercial real estate. We had huge offices that were American Eagle headquarters, FedEx headquarters. They chop people, they chop space, they start turning these into boutique offices, small businesses, right? And so they also lowered the cost of starting rent at those places because commercial real estate was struggling coming out of the pandemic, right? So if we're talking about the MSPs themselves, first off, understand what your approach is. Pick a target market, go after it, right? At least do that at the very least, or work with friends and family, like get referrals, because most MSPs, 90% of their revenue business comes from referral based, right? Most MSPs are great at client success, right? They can deliver a good solution. They're good for customer service. They're good at that stuff, right? What they're not good at is pivoting the conversation into growth. So, I don't care how you do it, determine what your market is, and then also determine what you're going to say. And this goes back to even the pitch conversation. Determine what's your elevator pitch. If you don't have an elevator pitch, you probably don't have a good presentation either. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
And know that presentation is crucial. The way you present yourself will determine if you get a client or not. The only reason why Matt Solomon closed you twice is because the way he presents himself, the way he's able to, you trust him. He becomes the Sears and Roebuck of freaking whatever he's doing. That's what it is. And that's what you have to be. You have to be ready to answer questions as quick as possible. You don't have to have all the answers. but you got to come back as quick as you can with the response, and you got to show that you're the expert.
Yeah. And Walter, do you mind if I chime in on this?
No, please.
Yeah. It just got me thinking about like how strategies are going to adjust, based on, maybe there's less leads coming in to your point of, if the economy shifts in a certain way, and, you have to get a lot more creative with how you bring in leads at that point. And so I guess one piece of advice I would say to MSPs is get involved locally. Go where your prospects are hanging out. And some of that's virtual. Like, I know Sean and me are in all the Facebook groups and all that. But there's physical places too that they're congregating. So be involved in those places. And I would say do it now, because don't be the guy showing up when the economy's down and all of a sudden you're like, hey guys, I'm
Too
here
late.
for you.
It's too
Yeah,
late.
so be
It's too late.
yeah, it's not too late yet. So get there now and
Yeah.
start establishing the relationships. But you have to go in, even if it's not comfortable for you. Not everybody can, enjoys being out in certain groups or whatever. But if that's where if that's where your prospect base is, you have to be there. And I used to tell this all the time as MSPs about like just thought leadership and putting out, valuable content. It is amazing how quickly you can make a name for yourself in our industry that you can repurpose for your own
Oh, yeah.
marketing and prospecting, right? So it's like, Walter, you have a relationship with Sean and I. Well, chances are I've had you on panels. Sean has had you on panels, and then you can repurpose that to your network, who then only keep seeing you. Like, God, Walter's featured on a lot of industry, panels and things like that. To me, that's like the lowest hanging fruit. And MSPs should reach out to a lot of their vendor partners, because I'm telling you, I've had, as the experience on the vendor side, if you reach out to me and tell me you want to be on a panel, I'm going to find a way to get you on a panel.
Yep.
You're making our job easier. So there's a lot of ways you can start thinking creatively, but I would start getting ahead of it now.
I actually during COVID, and Rick knows this because I was with him all the time. We were talking a lot during COVID, and we decided, look, we know that people are not going to buy stuff right now for at least for foreseeable future. We created so much content. I called every association in my area to do a free webinar about remote VPN or remote workers or anything like that. I did so many Zoom videos about how to use. I know this sounds stupid.
I remember it.
But these Zoom videos were like, nobody knew how to use Zoom, right? Like so, and what that did, Matt, fast forward a year and a half later, we got so much business from that. And I became like the expert at PowerPoint. Like I'm a PowerPoint expert at this point. And so all of that came from that momentum of just giving stuff for free. Rick, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing, and I guess what I would look at is alignment. And this next comment's going to sound a little snotty. I wasn't intending on making this comment here, but MSPs are technology companies, right?
Mhm.
I think every message. So I'm a human resources company, so it's a little different. But every message, every interaction has to ooze, to Walter's point, technological savviness and all that stuff. And I think there's a juxtaposition for specifically salespeople or businesses that are selling, which is
Oh, Super Tech came in.
yeah, there you go. Which is what the why, right? So why do businesses do what they do? So my why is I'm lazy and tired. I've been the frontline sales guy for a long time. I don't want to die at my desk selling. So that's just my why. That doesn't mean that's anyone else's why. The second side of that is the arc of a business, right? A bell curve, right? Do I want this business to die with me, or do I want this business to be a legacy, right? And if I want this business to be a legacy and understand my why of laziness, then I have to be able to push what's in my head out to other people, right? And whether it's getting tough out there, or there's understanding your why will help drive what your process is. And what I do believe is that with getting tougher and process, the more you can give to other people, the less you will work, the more you can expand. And the greatest thing COVID gave us was exactly what this call is and what Walter was referencing. I can now have a client in Pittsburgh where Sean is. 2 years ago, I couldn't. So I can hedge a lot of risks in the economy. I can hedge a lot of risks in, whatever the heck is going on with sneezing and all that other stuff. And I can hedge how I find the people that work for me. So I'm in here in New York on Long Island. I don't need the person on Long Island who's making the Long Island salary. I can go to Eden Prairie, Minnesota,
Mhm.
which is one of the where most of the customer service representative businesses are in this country, and get that person at that Midwest price and that Midwest skill set, right? So I think that there's understanding your why and understanding what you sell and having everything you do be aligned with that. Um, and then really what's the arc of your business, right? And that will dictate how much or how little you build into using Binox and the CRM and all that kind of good stuff.
I can talk to you for weeks, bro. This is crazy. Sean, closing statements for you, my friend.
Oh, dear Lord. Closing statement. Um, well, first, I'll jump on what Rick said. I agree with you about alignment to what you're doing, how you approach, right? If you're, and that's why the difference between talking about a small business and a local locality is going to be a little different in how you hire, right? You're going to align to, you're looking for people that are local. So you got to pay. So if you're in Brooklyn, you're paying Brooklyn fees. If you're, Midwest, you're paying Midwest. But and when you work at a company that sells globally and can hire people anywhere, because I've been part of most of those, and you're absolutely right. I start looking at if I can save money in one place, I can probably put it somewhere else. But I would say I'll come full circle on this. You need to have the ability, if you're going to grow your business, you have to make a decision that you are going to be a sales organization. You have to transform to that period, right? And I don't care how you do it, what you think you're going to do, you have to make the decision. And if it's going to be you, and you have to identify who you are in the business. If you're the CEO, you cannot say, I'm going to be the salesperson, the marketing person, the lead tech person, and the CEO. That's never going to work. So get the hell out of it. Knock that nonsense off because you're never going to grow. But if your legacy is just you want to have a balanced builder company where it's just a way of life, basically, then you're where you belong. Don't worry about it. Then don't watch this webinar either. I mean, seriously. But at the end, if you make that decision to be a business to transform to sales, then you have to buy the tools, you have to have the people, you have to have the process. Everything has to be in line, regardless.
I love that, Sean. You heard it here first, everybody. Sean said, become a salesperson. And it's hard for MSP, Sean, honestly, as being one, it's a transition we need to help them make.
Then hire
So
one. Then hire one
there you
and
go.
be the CEO. Make a decision on if it's going to be you or somebody else. And once you make the decision, stick to your guns and write up the responsibilities of what you want them to do. If you hire me, I have to fulfill whatever it is you're asking me for. We have to agree to that, right? But you tell me what it is, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do. And when I do it, shut up and get out of my way. That's it.
That's it.
Pay me, love me, send me good gifts, and support me when I need it. If I need a hug, hug me. Otherwise, don't mess with my stuff.
I love it. Thank you, my friend, and thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Ben,
Thank you.
closing statements.
Not much to add between what you, Walter, Matt, Rick, and Sean said. I guess I'll just say, look, my angle coming into this is I've got Wolf's Edge Integrators, which is a firm of fractional COOs, chief operating officers. When you need that, second in command, but can't afford an experienced person doing that full time. We've got a team of people doing that. So happy to answer any questions if anybody has. Just reach out to me through Wolf's Edge Integrators or LinkedIn or whatever. But if anything popped up and want to ask any questions, happy to just talk.
Ben, I can't thank you enough for being here. And we are going to post everybody's contact information on the social media channels, obviously. And we do have a raffle. So if you did register for this event, if you didn't do it now, because we do have $200 to give away right after this. Matt, last but not least.
I mean, everybody kind of summed everything up pretty well. I was just trying to think of some last other tips that I could maybe provide. Some of it's obvious, right? Just you have to invest in your sales team if you're going to spend the time hiring, and hiring is a pain in the ass, to be honest. It takes a lot of time, so you got to invest in those people. And I'm a big, as I've started learning over the years, I'm a big believer in when it comes to sales teams. If you can hire more than one at a time, like get two or three, if you can pull that off. Now I know an MSP is not likely to be able to do that, but some of the larger companies can. You know, there's a law of averages, and there's always going to be somebody who drops off and things like that. So it's from an investment standpoint, a lot of times it is easier to onboard 3 employees versus 1.
You know, it's funny you said that because I had 3 people tell me no this week about my managed service agreement, and I was like, wait a minute, last week I just closed 2 in 1 week. Like, what's going on? But it is an incredible evolution for all of us. I want to thank you all for being here. We're way over time, but I think, you know, I think we can talk forever. By the way, we should definitely do like one-on-one and just talk about the sales process and our journeys. We do have a raffle, so I didn't want to make this about Binox, but I do have to introduce the product officially. So we're gonna raffle first, and the people that read this is something new for me, by the way, guys. This is really cool. So we will be printing and posting the person who wins on social media, and I just want to thank everybody for making the time today. Please visit our website, www.binoxmsp.com. Take advantage of our free trial of our platform. We do demos all the time. So if you want to see if it's a fit, and Garrett Chipman is the winner. We will be posting that. That was pretty cool, actually.
That was very cool. Very
Great job,
techy.
Rick. Great job, Rigoberto. I never seen that before. But thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate your time. And please, you know, don't get lost. We're gonna definitely get together again. And God bless you all.
Take it
Peace.
easy. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Wow.
Have a good one.